Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. What up guys, today are the top 3 best Ninjabike builds in patch 1.8.3. First of all, I do want to say these are not the only builds I would recommend making with this backpack. You can make some other builds, it just really depends on you as a player. If you are a damage player, if you're a tank player, or if you're a skill power player, it just really depends on you. Personally, these are the builds that are working out the best for me right now, and if I want to use something a little bit different, instead of the nomad meta or the pred meta or the defense meta, I go to these builds and I really have fun with them and I really find a lot of success with them for both PvP and sometimes even for PvE. Also, these are builds with classified gear. If you don't have classified gear, it is okay. You can still make these builds just using regular gear. Obviously, classified gear is better to have and obviously it's going to be a little bit better. But if you are returning, if you're new to the game, once again, you can make this with regular gear and have fun in PvP or even PvE. So anyways, if you guys are new to this video or find it helpful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for my videos, and let's get right into this. Starting off, the first build I do want to show you guys is my final measure / Banshee build. Honestly, I put this build together about 2 or 3 weeks ago, something like that, and I really like this. The main purpose of this build is to counter anything that's annoying in the game. So for example, like the pred bleed, shock nades, burn nades, disrupt, anything like that. If you use this build, you don't really have to worry about stuff like that. And once again, if you don't want to worry about pred bleed, especially for the dark zone, this is a build I would recommend making 100% if you want to use a Ninjabike backpack. So starting off, I'm going to show you guys the weapon. So yes, I am using the house. You don't have to use this weapon. If you don't have the house, it is okay. You can make this build with a lightweight M4, LVOAC, MP5N, or even something like the AUG if you want to use it again. If you have a God roll one in your stash, whatever the case is, you can even use that. But for me, I'm using the house. What it has on it is 23% critical hit chance, and for the talents it has deadly, unforgiving, and the card counter exotic talents. And for the weapon mods, I'm using everything pretty much with critical hit damage, critical hit chance, as you guys can see. The next thing I'm using is a LVAC, and this is pretty much for a kind of emergency situation. If I run out of ammo or I have to reload, anything like that, I could whip this out and kind of fight still close quarters, and even hit someone kind of running away and stuff like that with a bit better accuracy. Now for the gear, so the first thing I'm using is a Banshee vest. What I have on it is firearms, health, EDR, ammo capacity, and then for the mods I'm actually using 2 stamina and exotic damage resilience mods. Really quickly, all the mods on this build are EDR mods with stamina. Once again, I'm pretty much trying to counter pred bleed, just anything that's annoying once again in the game. This build can really take care of that. Obviously, if you want to make this build even better, you can use just final measures as a 5-piece or even a 6-piece if you want. But if you don't have that, if you have just regular final measures, you can once again follow this build guide. For the mask, I'm using another Banshee mask with firearms, EDR, burn resistance, and then once again we have another stamina and EDR mod on the mask. Moving down, for the knee pads, we're using our first final measures piece with stamina, EDR, burn resistance, shock resistance, and disorient resistance. Pretty good knee pads, and then once again for the mods we have stamina and EDR with a 6% first aid self-heal. For the backpack, we're obviously using a Ninjabike backpack. What I'm using is stamina, health, burn resistance, and then for the mods again, I'm using the same exact thing. Moving down, I'm using final measures gloves with firearms, SMG damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. And last but not least, we have a final measures holster with critical hit chance as always, and a 6% first aid self-heal. So once again, this build, the primary function of this build is to counter pred bleed. Once again, if you want to make this better, you can use a 5-piece, and obviously you will get 15% more exotic damage resilience. So it's going to be even better, but if you don't have a full complete piece, like a 5-piece or even just classified in general, you can try out this and see if you like it. Really quickly, for the character stats, I'm going to show you guys them as well. I know everyone is always kind of asking about this. So for the weapon damage, I'm sitting at 20.5k, 38% critical hit chance, 115% critical hit damage. For the health, I'm sitting at 333,000. And then the most important thing, I'm sitting at 67% exotic damage resilience. Now with this build, I kind of would recommend playing with maybe a team, if not then another person who has decent heals. Maybe they can use something like a tactician build or a reclaimer build, kind of keep you alive, and you guys can kind of help each other. You know, with you having the 3-piece final measures, not only are you getting the EDR, but you're also going to be able to defuse nades. So you guys can kind of work with each other. Once again, the healing on this build isn't really the greatest, but if you know how to time your medkits, if you know how to time your heals, then you should be fine. Lastly, for the abilities, I'm using a booster shot, and this is pretty much for the extra damage and also damage resilience. I'm also using a immune station for the extra healing. Obviously, I can drop it and pop it. I'm not going to get that much healing, but if I'm one shot, if I'm in a really bad situation, even this will help out. And also for the immune station, the booster shot, if you guys don't want to use this, if you want to use something with a bit more healing, I would recommend switching to a overdose. It's not going to be a big difference, but once again, it's going to give you a little bit more health, so it just really depends on you. And then for the talents, I'm using critical save, strike back, precision, and on the move. I've been using these talents forever. I really like them. If you guys want to use something a bit different, like adrenaline, triage, combat medic, it's really up to you. And once again, it just really depends on you as a player. The next build I do want to showcase is my Alpha Bridge / Predator build with the Ninjabike backpack. So first of all, I'm going to show you guys the weapon. Obviously, I'm using the house with the same exact talents, deadly, unforgiving, but the only difference is I'm also using responsive with this. Since I'm using 3 Alpha Bridge with a Ninjabike backpack, I do get the 4th talent, which allows me to get a extra talent, and for that I'm using responsive. And then for the weapon mods, I'm using everything once again the same as the first build with critical hit damage, critical hit chance, as you guys can see. For the gear, so really quickly for the chest piece, I'm using stamina, EDR, health, ammo capacity, and then for the gear mods, I'm using 2 firearms and critical hit chance mods. For the mask, I'm using firearms, critical hit chance, burn resistance, and then for my gear mod, I'm using a stamina and critical hit chance mod. For the knee pads, I'm using firearms, health, damage leads, disrupt resistance, burn resistance, and then once again we have a stamina and crit chance mod with a 2% pulse critical hit chance mod as well. For the backpack, I'm using the same exact one as in the first build with stamina, health, burn resistance, but this time I'm using a stamina and critical hit chance mod with 2% pulse critical hit chance mods as well. Moving down to the gloves, I'm using my first piece of Predator Mark, and this is for pretty much the extra reload speed and also the assault rifle damage / SMG damage. Once again, you can use this build pretty much with a AR or SMG. If you want to use this with a shotgun or LMG, then I would recommend using Banshee because the 3-step bonus is not going to apply to that. But what I have on it is firearms, SMG damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. And last but not least, for the holster, we're using a Predator holster with critical hit chance again, and a 2% pulse critical hit chance mod. So with this build, this pretty much is my kind of skirmish build and last stand build. This could be good for the dark zone. I don't really use this too much in the dark zone. I really haven't tested it out too much either. But for skirmish and last stand, this thing absolutely melts. The extra talent, which is pretty much giving you 10% extra damage with responsive, is really good. You also get the 8% SMD damage with the Predator Mark bonuses, so if you're looking for a good damage build for PvP, especially skirmish or last stand, this is your go-to build. For the abilities, I'm using a booster shot with a concealer. The concealer I'm using for pretty much extra critical hit chance and also not to get pulsed and pretty much, kind of avoid being damaged a lot by those players. Also, it kind of helps out if you're roaming by yourself and in last stand or skirmish. If you want to go behind them, you can pop this and be kind of invisible. Booster shot, once again for the damage resilience. And then for the talents, I'm using adrenaline, critical save, strike back, and on the move. So once again, like I said, if you're looking for a good damage build, you like using Alpha Bridge, you like using the Ninjabike backpack, this is your go-to build 100%. Last but not least, I do want to show you guys my favorite Ninjabike backpack build right now in patch 1.8.3. So what that is my 3-piece Predator's Mark, 2-piece Banshee with the Ninjabike backpack. This build absolutely melts. If you want to use this for the dark zone, skirmish, last stand, even in PvE, this thing absolutely melts. If you want to pair this up with a AR or SMG, it doesn't matter, this thing will absolutely shred. I have played against a lot of Nomad builds, a lot of Striker builds, a lot of Pred builds, and this build holds its own. I'm not saying it's, you know, better than those builds, or you're going to melt those players 100% when you see them, but you do have a really good chance of killing them if it's a 1v1 kind of scenario. It just really depends on you, if you use your, you know, cover well and stuff like that. But this build can really compete with that, and if you've been using this build, you know exactly what I mean, that this build is absolutely insane. So starting off, the first thing I do want to show you guys is the weapon. Once again, it's the same exact thing, the house with Deadly, Unforgiving, and the rest you guys already know what to roll on this. Now for the gear, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So for the chest piece, I'm using Stamina, Health, EDR, Ammo Capacity. I'm using 2 Pulse Critical Hit Chance mods with Stamina. This is pretty much for me to get above the 5500 mark. I like using builds with above like 5500, maybe a little bit more. For Last Stand especially. Anything below that, I feel like I'm way too squishy, I die way too fast. So, you know, with Last Stand and me playing Last Stand, you guys know that classified gear gets normalized down to 1270. So for that reason, if I'm not using these mods, I sit around like 5,200 health or 5,100 health. And once again, for me, that is just a little bit too low. So that's why I'm using these mods. You guys can change this up. You guys can use firearms and critical hit chance mods. It's really up to you. For the mask, we're using firearms, EDR, burn resistance with a firearms and critical hit chance mod. For the knee pads, I'm using firearms, health, disarm resistance, disrupt resistance, and shock resistance. And then once again, I'm using a firearms and critical hit chance mod with a 6% first aid self heal. The backpack, same exact thing, and these are the mods I'm using on it. Moving down, for the gloves, I'm using Pred gloves with firearms, SMG damage, critical hit chance, critical hit damage. And then finally, for the holster, we have critical hit chance again with a 6% first aid self heal mod. So once again, this is my favorite build right now with the Ninjabike backpack. Once again, I'm not saying this is 100% better than Nomad or Pred or defense, anything like that. I'm just saying if you like using the Ninjabike backpack, you want to use some different builds, you want to experiment, this is something I would 100% recommend making if you haven't used this build already. As I said, you can ask in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people kind of replying to this and telling you that this build is insane. So if you're new, if you're coming back, this is something you want to definitely try out. Lastly, for the abilities, I'm using a concealer with a booster shot. Once again, concealer for critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and kind of being invisible on the radar. Booster shot for the extra damage. And then for the talents, I'm using adrenaline, critical save, strike back, and on the move. So yeah, those are my 3 Ninjabike backpack builds right now in this patch. Maybe something in the future will change, but as of right now, if I'm using something a little bit different, these are my go-to builds for skirmish, for last stand, or the dark zone. It just really depends what I'm playing and what I want to use. So anyways, that's it for the video. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I respond to all my comments. But once again, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.